Issues to think about. You are able to control the words before speaking them. However, you have to hear the consequences of the words that you do say to someone, living in a way that you will always have peace of mind without neglecting your physical appearance. It is important to remember the Roman phrase, there are people who dig their graves by their own mouth. As much as you can in any appointment or task to be fulfilled, arrive at least 10 minutes earlier. Idleness paralyzes any faculty, as a spontaneous smile is a blessing, attracting even more blessings. Serving beyond your own duty is not flattering, but is provides security. The more you help others, then the more support you receive for solving your own problems. It is not who envy you, but is not usual to have enemies. For each action of goodness practiced by you, a light is turned on your pathway. Those who speak little have listened better, and those who have listened better will learn much more.
Dear Father Lord, we thank you for being here today on Wednesday, the 9th of October 2019. Thank you for the opportunity to learn the Spiritism, inspiring lives, this consoling and very enlightening doctrine that help us all. Thank you so much for the benefactors who came here before us and prepared these studies for us. Thank you so much for all the people who surround us and help us to understand a little bit more about our lives, about our spirituality and about our reflections. Please help us, God, to reflect as much as we can and to bring all those inspiring learning that we have here applying to our own lives. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So be it.
Welcome all of us here once more with our purpose to carry on our studies as brothers and sisters in humanity, incarnates and all of those in the spirit who also are here with us, either because they followed us or because the spiritual benefactors already brought them here, or those who may took their own initiative, also willingly choosing to be here with us within this unique opportunity that God, the creator of everything and everyone, is granted to all of us. As always we say, Spiritism inspires life is a proposal that brings consolation, hope through the universal message of Spiritism. Bear in mind that Spiritism is the message that the Enlightened Spirits are bringing through the message of God for Jesus, who brings the words of God. So in that way is for all of us. And here we are in the English language, helping us and all of those in the English speakers, or those who may be understanding English also, if they want to also learn. And in that sense, as learners, as we all are, and continue our study, we are studying in this initial phase what are the main principles of Spiritism as we went through the previous weeks. And today we carry on the principles of Spiritism, study about prayer. And that is very important for us as immortal beings, as we all are, because prayer, as we will go through and understand, is a way that we can open our spiritual channel, connected with the good spirits, with our spiritual friends, with God, with Jesus, knowing that no one is alone. So in that way we start. Let's read it. Danusa, would you like to read it?
Prayer is an act of adoration for God. It is found in the natural law and the result of an innate sentiment in every human being, just as the idea of the existence of the Creator is innate.
Okay, now let's reflect. How is that coming to us as we are starting with prayer? What we understand actually when it says prayer in this short phrase, prayer is an act of adoration for God.
The first thing that comes to mind is one of the laws, which it says afterwards, which is a divine law, which is the adoration of worship. And I always wondered about that. Why do we need to worship something, someone, a being that is already perfect? Why do we need to worship it? But it's for our own assistance, benefits. Yeah.
Yes, it is an interesting question. If God is the creator of everything and everyone, why do we refer to him asking for help or praying that we may connect? If he already created us, isn't it? But we do understand as us as creatures, we need to learn to develop the divine within, which we bring the seeds, but we need to make the effort. And as more as we do it and practice, more we expand goodness and the divine within, more we potentialize ourselves.
I remembered now when somebody asked Joana de Angelis why her Portuguese was so complex and so difficult, why couldn't she simplify her messages? And she says, no, you elevate yourself to me, don't make me lower myself to you. And that's not in an arrogant state, but it's a way of bringing us as immortal spirits to potentialize ourselves.
So yes, she is really teaching in that way. I'm not here to be your babysitters, yeah? In other words, I'm here to potentialize yourself because you are divine beings. You bring that power within. If I can easily go down to you, but if you accommodate yourself there, then you will evolve, and that is not my duty. My duty is to help you to promote yourself, to come up. And as more as we learn, as more as we boost us as immortal beings within the understanding of the natural laws and choose gratitude to live accordingly, stronger we become as immortal beings. More within to go through the trials and experiences that we still in a natural way need to go through in our learning process. Okay, who is God? Let's imagine those who are with us who never heard. How could we explain who is God? Never heard about that. What are you talking about? Who is God? Grazie?
The supreme intelligence.
You're so timid to say that. It's almost physically. You are shrinking. What is that? Say again, Grazie.
As Andrea said, Harold was studying the book of Nosso and then he said, it's the big heart, the big invisible heart, it's in heaven. Interesting.
Okay, interesting, yes. Who else would say it? Because different ways of saying may help different beings understand, as we are all unique.
This concept of heart is love. So God is love.
Yeah.
And we, within Spiritism, we don't ask who is God, we ask what is God.
Good.
We're moving away from bringing God down to us and trying to elevate ourselves. Not that we understand, we're still learning. But what is God? What is love? What is love? This is what Spiritism is about.
So we could say, what is God? God is love. What is love? I don't know. This is why I'm here learning. Because really, when we refer God, the perfect being in the universe, and us who are in a primitive stage learning, we would be very prideful if we would say that is love. We know through the different virtues that we are learning about and trying to exercise that is the development gradually about love. But God is love, is the Father who created us all and everything in the universe and created us with his love, which we as creatures who are loved by him still don't understand in the stage where we are. But as we are all under the law of progress, sooner or later, we will all understand it. Now, how do I perceive God on earth in a primitive world? How do I perceive God? How does God express himself on earth? Say it again.
Helping others.
How about nature? Is nature the expression of God on earth? Yes. Yes. So we are constantly invited by the enlightened beings for us to learn through nature, because that is the stage where God's manifestation exists for us. How can we explain when we go in the gardens, for those who like, and look to different aspects in the flowers and the plants? Who is that architect? Who is that designer? And then when we start to reflect about that, there are things we don't understand, but we can see the wisdom in our level of God expressing himself where we are in this stage. Of course, as more as I said, we evolve, our consciousness also will broaden and gradually we will understand. But it's not because we are in a planet of trials and expiations, which is still is a primitive planet, that we are without the presence of God here. God is present already. Is that making sense?
Beauty of prayer as well, and knowing that God is everywhere, is that, and this is something that we're constantly invited by the Spirit, is to go into your room and not to be like the Pharisees who we pray here because it's our way of harmonizing the ambient, but we're saying those that pray externally. And it's that internal prayer of having that conversation with God, and that all the liturgies is constantly reminding us of Mother Teresa's conversation with God, as he listens, I listen, and that connection with a being that you know is unconditional. And when we manage to do that, then it not only strengthens us, but it also helps us to connect with divine inspirations that help us to continue in this world of trials and expiation. So it's really beautiful, the whole idea of prayer and the adoration of God. It isn't futile, it isn't something that we're just extracting from religion.
Religion as on the physical level, yes.
It's a necessary resource that we have. It's a resource.
Yes, and then when I carry on, it is found in the natural law where we are. It's not in a church, it's not in a place, but it's a natural law. What do we understand? What is the natural law? Hello? What is the natural law? Is the law of God. It's like children, we are filling the gaps with each word. Yes, the natural law is God's law, yes. And it is the result of an innate sentiment in every human being, just as the idea of the existence of the Creator is innate. So can one of us say, I don't have that within? Why not? Why do we understand this law? And is the result of an innate sentiment in every human being. He is not saying here in every spiritist, he is saying in every human being. How do we understand that? Where is that innate sentiment coming from? My question. Are you following?
It's from God, because God created us.
Yes.
So as we are sons of God, we have this innate sentiment in every one of us.
So God created us simple and ignorant and put the seeds of the divine laws within us. So this innate sentiment as a seed, everyone brings within. And now as more as we evolve, as more as we become conscious, as more as we unfold ourselves, let's say through the law of progress, we will become aware and we will freely, spontaneously choose to stimulate that innate sentiment that we bring as a seed. But in a stage where we are now, we are the co-creators to help to develop that sentiment. Is that making sense? That is beauty, isn't it? So that no one is deprived of it. Although I may feel sometimes that doesn't happen with me, but that is my limitation in relation to God. Temporary. Because sooner or later I will realize actually that although I felt in one way, is always there and God always loves us. I may sometimes have my channels shut down. Let's put it like that, yes, closed. And then we carry on to the next bit. So carry on, please.
Prayer makes human beings better. Whoever prays with confidence grows stronger against evil temptations. and God sends the good spirits to assist them. This assistance will never be denied when required with sincerity.
So how can we reflect on it?
So we are really elaborating on that.
Yes, prayer makes human beings better. Let's imagine we never heard it. How would we explain that? How does prayer make human beings better? Do we know?
Because you become ready for everything you have, and you don't have all the things you have, and even the bad things.
Gratitude with what prayer does is it helps us, so it takes us reprogramming our mind, which is the source of us beings. So I suppose when we do manage to get to that confidence and really pray, no matter what level of evolution we are, no matter what religion we are, what we're actually doing is we're reprogramming that mental force which we have within ourselves, and helping to potential, or even open ourselves to be helped, to not even potential.
Yeah.
Because when we study the perispirit and we think about that, that's the idea that's coming to mind. It's just that helping that cycle to actually happen. You know?
So as we are beings in the journey of evolution for centuries and centuries, we structured our psyche in one way, with some concepts, with some belief systems, and yet when we reflect that we come from a journey within the materialism and therefore selfishness, of course, our concept values, they are quite limited and quite disconnected in relation to the natural laws, which are based on love. So now as we go through and get learning and pray and change, be more grateful, be more tolerant, be more fraternal, be more cooperative, be more forgiving, all these virtues, as more as we do it, we are rewriting our perispiritual memory or an unconscious memory. And this is the way that now in this stage where we are choosing freely to promote ourselves within the natural laws as was presented previously. It's beautiful in that way, isn't it? So,
and remembering that the regeneration of the perispirit is what's making us feel better. It isn't just to be Zen, it's a happier way of living, isn't it?
we become lighter, even if we are within the physical body, but we lighter on energetic level. And also we detox our mental state of mind. As André Louise teaches quite a lot, the need that we have to, it's almost like to constantly have a spring cleaning in our mental state. In that renewal process, in changing our belief systems and thoughts, we are renewing our mentality. And again, healthier and healthier, or better and better. And as I said previously, an innate sentiment, we know that the roots of the thoughts are in the heart, on the emotional level. So we are promoting ourselves from within in a better way. Sentiment is promoting our emotional intelligence, and that means promoting ourselves towards the real love.
And one last thing is that with prayer, because if we think about disincarnate spirits, we can, as incarnate, we can go off and do some charity work and interact with other people and change our mental way of being. But disincarnate spirits who are still in that cycle of thinking the same thing and feeling the same thing, prayer is so useful. It's so useful to open up.
You mentioned, sorry, I forgot, is it disincarnate or the incarnate? The disincarnate, yes.
Prayer can be so useful because you don't need to do anything, stay where you are. Open up to that prayer. That's already a way of helping yourself to get out of that cycle, that mental stage.
Yes, and now my question is, let's imagine that I'm here studying and hearing, gosh, you don't need to do much, just pray. But what is prayer? If I haven't learned, I don't know how to pray. A lot of spirits don't know. Sometimes they come to the mediumship work, they don't know. So how would we explain?
Teach us, please.
How do we understand how to pray?
I think it's something that's
Speak a bit louder.
it's something to glory to God, or some adoration. I don't know. We can say thank you for things. We can glory, or we can maybe ask for things. And it's something that we elevate our thoughts and we are closer to God's, but we have to do with open hearts.
So, if as I'm a beginner, and I don't know about whatever you said, I start in a simple way. Within Spiritism, we don't need to be concerned about words. Simplicity is the soul of the heart. So when we start, how do I start? Let's start by saying, dear Father, thank you for my life. We are immortal beings. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my experiences. Thank you for all of those who are looking after me. Thank you for every opportunity that you give me as a learner in the universe. Thank you, Lord. And then I may also say, help me to grow. Help me to forgive if I have issues around forgiveness. Help me, dear Father, to become better, to expand my ability of feeling good towards others. Embracing my fellow beings as brothers and sisters in humanity. Help me to become stronger, to acknowledge and to live that, because that is my choice. I choose, I want to be better. How is that so? Simplicity of heart. We don't need to be concerned about words, because the majority of us, and including myself, considering centuries and centuries of learning, we learned to decorate words, but we didn't know what it means. This is not what we within Spiritism. Spiritism, simple words, knowing what we are saying, and repeating them constantly with a humble heart and a sincere heart, so that we feel it. Thank you, God. Starting to express our gratitude and ask for help within our difficulties, which we all have. If we did wrong that comes to our minds, bear in mind, God is love. He doesn't punish anyone. He doesn't punish. He invites us all. Forgive. Self. We all do mistakes. We all did mistakes. Doesn't matter. Now it's time to learn to forgive ourselves and learn with those who know more than us, that they are around us, that we can learn to do good in this time and move forward. Does that make sense? Okay, so whoever prays with confidence grows strong against evil temptations. My question so far is, whoever prays with confidence, I don't feel confidence. How is that? What do we learn here? Do we feel sometimes weak in terms of praying? Do we feel sometimes that
Sometimes you believe you're so kind.
But I believe here, whoever prays with confidence grows strong against evil temptations. What does it mean, confidence? With confidence. How do we pray with confidence if we are not confident?
But you know, the confidence can be not in ourselves, but the confidence that the good spirits will be able to decipher through our lack of confidence.
Would it be right in saying if I would use different words, perhaps? But whoever prays with sincerity, whoever prays with real willpower, I really want to pray, even if I don't know, I learn. I activate that innate sentiment, and I start to stimulate the willingness, the assurance, to connect with the greatest power in the universe, which is our dear, loving, and merciful God. Yeah?
With my heart. With my heart.
With my heart. And even if you don't feel at the beginning, which may happen and happens all of us, and even some days we may, oh my God, but we carry on training. Because the innate sentiment needs to be stimulated through repetition. Yes? And then it carries on. Prayer with confidence grows stronger against evil temptations. What do we understand about evil temptations? I'm talking with the incarnates. What do we understand about evil temptations? Do we have evil temptations? These incarnates do not understand that language. What is Or what are evil temptations?
Sometimes we are greedy.
Could we say our own limitations, our own imperfections, our own shadows? Now, examples. When we are greedy. What else? Sorry? When we are impatient, self-centered. What else?
Arrogance.
When we are arrogant, prideful, jealous. What else? Irresponsible, unforgiving, angry. What else? Vengeful, lazy. Lazy. Even to think about, I don't want to think about. Yeah, laziness. Yeah. So as more as we pray, because as more as we study, more we become aware of ourselves and understanding that Spiritism is a consoling proposal that Jesus is bringing to humanity. We don't need to feel guilty when we become aware of our shadows or our imperfections. We are all valuable human beings, imperfect, perfecting us. Therefore, all of us still have temptations to overcome. But as more as we now have the tool of prayer and use it in our favor, willingness, we become stronger as spirits, as we are, yeah, in making the right decision. And God sends the good spirits to assist them. This assisting will never be denied when requested with sincerity. What do you understand about good spirits? To benefactors,
Guardian angels.
or guardian angels,
Familiar spirits.
or familiar spirits, or dear friends in a spirit who lived with us in previous existences, know us very well, love us as we are. They are not focused on our shadows. They are again back because they are more evolved than us and are coming back to help us, to invite us, to teach us, to learn from them. So God sends means, it's not written there, but we are here invited to reflect about the law of fraternity among the different beings, the law of solidarity, which we are all interconnected through God's law. As more as we evolve spiritually, more need naturally we have to go and help those who know less than us. Because we will be free through the evolution process from the selfish part. We become more altruistic. That is what we all have, the good beings who are helping us, inspiring us. Okay, now let's move on. In the book Action and Reaction, André Luiz teaches the following to us. Danusa, read it for us, please.
Prayer is always a certificate of goodwill and understanding in the testimony of our condition as imperfect spirits. Undoubtedly, it cannot modify the course of laws, but renews our way of being, not only as blessed plantation of solidarity in our benefit, but also as a vaccine against reoccurrence in evil. In addition, prayer brings us closer to the great benefactors who preside over the steps, helping us to organize a new roadmap for safe walking.
What do we learn here? What André Luiz Spirit is teaching us in the book Action and Reaction about prayer. How is that coming to us? Prayer is always a certificate of goodwill and understanding in the testimony of our condition as imperfect spirits. How is that coming to us?
As we go back to the beginning of our reflections, is why worship God? And we need to humble ourselves in order to do that properly. Otherwise, if we're too proud, we don't need to ask for assistance.
Mm-hmm. We think we know everything. And that is usually a red flag for us, because then we know really that we are still covered with pride. Because we always still need help. We always still need the help of God in this stage where we are. And as more as we become more sincere with ourselves and also more humble, or we develop humbleness, and in that way we don't need to pretend anymore to be who we aren't, because we are all loving beings in nature, and we all are unique and different, but we are all learning and growing towards the natural laws. Undoubtedly, it cannot modify the course of laws. Prayer cannot modify the law of the course of laws, but renews our way of being, and not only as a blessed plantation of solidarity in our benefit, but also as the vaccine against recurrence of evil. I find it very philosophical what Andrea is saying. But how could we address these words? When we engage with prayer and we choose to incorporate that in our lives, knowing that we are all imperfect beings, yet loving beings essentially, and we are learning and going through. Now I heard about prayer and I pray for God. Will that change the course of the laws which I'm in? Will that change? No, why not? But I'm praying.
Because things are all right. I think everything is where it should be, and sometimes we feel some experiences not so good, but actually they come to us for us to learn and to have a positive behavior, I think.
Okay.
So this book, Action and Reaction, is brilliant to demonstrate that. Especially us, when disincarnated, shows us that when we cultivate anger and hatred and greed and all of those things, we're going to reap the consequences of those sentiments and those thoughts that we're constantly generating within ourselves. We'll find ourselves in dark places. What the prayer will do is it will help us to almost send a little flag to the benefactor said, I'm ready to start the change. But it doesn't mean that it's going to shift everything immediately, because there's action and reaction, there's a cause and there's a consequence to everything that we do. And with the divine laws being as perfect as they are, it's only just. And remembering that the law of justice comes with love as well. So prayer is what unites the justice with love. Also, what I remember as well as the Gospel according to Spiritism is where when we look at the prayer, when they're talking about repentance, it's the first stage of relief. I think it's the first stage of reparation. And that's what prayer is doing for us. And I think we're constantly, we'll say, well, we're in different stages of evolution, but we're constantly needing to repent something and pray for something. Constantly needing to do that, no matter where we are, what we're doing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And here when they say it doesn't modify the course, as you already saw of the laws, because as you well said, natural laws, which are God's laws, it's not because I pray that those laws change, because I'm under one of the laws, which is the cause and effect. So whatever I did, which is not in accordance, it's not that God punishes me. But when I pray, the laws still are the same, but what changes is my interaction with the law. I choose to pray and become better, as we said previously, and freely and spontaneously choose to condition myself, to re-educate myself more within the laws. So it's not prayer that will eliminate the hardships in my learning process. The hardships is the hand of God towards me, that I potentialize my faculties that I bring within. Okay? And then we carry on talking. How could we reframe it? As more as we pray in relation to the great benefactors. Who are the great benefactors? The enlightened spirits. Could be our own spiritual benefactor, but are the great spirits. Those who already are great in loving, in the real love. They are there to help us, to inspire us. When we are open, when we are receptive, when we put the effort into, when we are humble to recognize our limitations. In that way, we become, let's say, stronger spiritually when we recognize our limitations. But when we hide them, then we are weaker spiritually. And then we also shut ourselves down in terms of receiving their inspirations, which is their guidance.
Remembering that benefactors, they have a bird's eye view of our journey. So we do need them to guide us.
Yes, because
they're not self-sufficient.
No, they have their responsibility towards us, and we agreed through the reincarnation before coming to back to earth, we agreed with them. They have a plan there. And they are there to help us, to promote us, because we are here on earth to promote us spiritually, to promote us in terms of becoming less imperfect, to become better, improving ourselves. And the main goal for them is to inspire us and to guide us. Even when we go there and they try to push us back, we may not listen to them sometimes, but they are there. Because the major aspect in our evolution is to strengthen us spiritually towards within the natural laws and to live more according to them. Because that is good for us. It's not they are there as imposing their will upon us. It's helping us because they know whatever we overcome here on earth, going through processes, we are happier, even in this existence and also in the future ones. In the Spirit's book, Grazi, would you like to read verse, please?
We can usefully ask God to forgive our faults. God knows how to discern good from evil. Prayer does not conceal fault. He who asks God for forgiveness of his faults only gets it by changing his behavior. Good deeds are the best prayer, which is why deeds are worth more than words.
Apart from what we reflected already, what we learn now with this passage from the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec. Do we still all need to pray for forgiveness? Yes, we all need that. And there is nothing in terms of being weak when we recognize that. That is where we become stronger. Because we are learning to be sincere and honest with ourselves. Sincerity, honesty, they are the inner potentials that brings us closer to God and stronger spiritually. Anything else that we get from here?
When you say that, what came to mind now is the book Memories of a Suicide, where there was one spirit who was constantly talking about himself as if he was the victim. When one of the benefactors had to bring him down and say, well, no, actually, you weren't a great son. You weren't as great as you're projecting onto your own mind that you were. And this is what prayer is allowing us to free ourselves from that trauma of self-denial. Because maybe we can't be true to others, but if we can be true to ourselves, and this is the beauty of God with lovingness, we don't even need to make it public.
No.
It can be private, but it needs to be true.
And why can we do that without being public?
Because God loves us.
Because we are unique beings, and internally we have the inner freedom that God gives us, that we can choose to do good, that we can choose to forgive even without saying any word, if that sometimes is not possible. Yeah, that internal ability. Okay, then we move on now in the book Rumo Certo, Emmanuel says to us, whatever difficulty you may be going through or trials that you may be facing, remember that God is with you and nothing will be lacking in the fields of help and blessings, so that you may cross all the tunnels of tribulations and shadows to find peace and the path of light. How do we understand that? What is prayer now here referring to? Maybe sometimes think that we are alone when we go through the tribulations, when we go through the shadow phases. And why is that? Why do we feel alone? Hello?
Because sometimes we may not be connected to God. So we might think we are alone on the challenges we had in our lives, but that's not true. Because if we connect ourselves, we try to pray, we identify what we have to work on it. It's like a study of ourselves, I think, prayer as well. So with the sincerity, then it can help us to connect again, and then we feel that we are not alone.
Would it be right in saying that sometimes we may think that we are alone because of our ignorance about the natural laws in life? Yeah? And also because of my pride, because we should have the two reasons. Ignorance, I haven't learned about it. And then we also carry on a study with the spirits later on, saying that we all carry the natural laws within. But through my ignorance or through my pride, that I may be shut down, then I may think that I'm alone. But it's never true. We are always assisted. We always have God who protects us all, Jesus who is our dear friend in 24 hours and 7 days for us, and also the good spirits who are with us. That is quite consoling for all of us, even those who may be studying with us, who don't have the understanding yet, but we are studying, feel soothed by the dear ones who are with you. Even if, I repeat again, even if we think we are alone, that's not true. Maybe look around and feel the presence of the loving ones who are with us, helping us. Trials and tribulations is nothing more than experiences that we go through in order to learn.
Yes, and remember we're all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes with our pride and with the ignorance, we'll think, well, what's the point of me? Well, actually, no, there are people behind and aside and in front that need my uplifting as much as I do theirs, and that's how we manage to kind of balance it through, especially in the world where we are.
Yes.
We're coming out of the primitive, we're still helping each
Yes.
other to lift up. So, and when we start realizing that I'm only starting to realize this now because I'm hearing about, because it's been the whole thing about suicide, and hearing about when one soul suicides, how the whole family or how the whole community and how everybody is needing help for that. Imagine in the spiritual world as well. So it's that selfishness, and I'm not judging anyone that's visiting. I'm just talking about when we're considering ourselves going through our trials, to think, oh, nobody's worrying about us. Well, actually, no, we're all interconnected. We just can't see it.
We will affect dear ones. And suicide within the natural laws is never the way forward. God is love. Whatever difficult it is, may we choose to ask for help if we need. There are so many people on earth. We are not alone. There's always someone who can help us. The suicide would be the wrongest action that we could do in relation to us. Because the pain and suffering for all of us, as we free ourselves from the physical body, is the greatest one that we cannot probably imagine. And those who may be studying with us, who went down that road, there is no reason to feel guilty or blame. God is asking us to allow ourselves to give new opportunities. Let's engage with the favor process of prayer and ask for help, because then we will open ourselves and perceive that although we did what we did, God continues to love us in the same way as He loves everybody else. And He's inviting us for us to open our eyes spiritually towards those who are around us who want to help us, so that we can carry on learning what we haven't learned, learning to value what we weren't able previously. It's all about learning and walk in the path of more light. And now we carry on in the domain of mediumship by Andrea Louise, who also brings. Susanna, would you like to read it for us, please?
Every prayer, daughter of sincerity and duty well fulfilled, with moral respectability and clear feelings, remains touched by immeasurable power.
Okay, how do we now understand this? Every prayer, daughter of sincerity and duty well fulfilled. I love that. Daughter. How is that coming to us? So again, showing us that we don't need to be concerned which word do I use, connect with the heart, start to talk with God, with sincerity, and the words will emerge. With the duty well fulfilled, what is that? I think here Andrea Louise is helping us. Well, even easy. Don't sit there to pray. Although we are reflecting about prayer, and it's very good, and it makes me a better person, and I become stronger, but don't sit there to pray. Why not? Because he's carrying on saying, and duty well fulfilled. Go and work, help, cooperate. As more as you do that, more you are becoming stronger. And that is a prayer in itself. Love is goodness in action. Love is the movement of goodness wherever we are. And that for itself is a prayer. Is that so, actually? Then we carry on in the Spirit's book. Andrea, would you like to read it for us, please?
Prayer is a powerful aid and the cure of the
Obsession.
obsession. But believe me, it's not enough that someone says a few words so they get what they want. But what's those who work, not those who are limited in asking.
So what do we learn here regarding prayer? Within Spiritism, which is a consoling, hopeful message for us, what do we learn here? What do you understand about obsession? Let's imagine those who never heard of it. What is obsession?
Negative thoughts.
Negative thoughts. Obsession is when we are hooked in our negative thinking, negative feelings, yeah? Therefore, negative words, negative behavior. And then we also, through this through this self-obsessive way of relating with us, we attract other spirits who think and feel in the same way. Then we are in this toxic, negative hamster mood. You know what hamster means? This closed circle. Yeah. And that says, but believe me, it's not enough that someone says a few words so they get what they want. So it's almost like I'm in that negative state and say, oh God, please help me. No, I need to do more. I need to put more effort into. I need to change my behavior. Be willing to do that. Be willing to break through. And be willing, even if I don't feel, because sometimes, honestly, we do have days that we don't feel good. Even if you don't feel like praying, but off we go, we pray. I notice where I am. I don't fight with myself. I accept where I am, but I don't validate my own behavior. I allow myself to go beyond that. And in that way, we again are opening ourselves. The power of prayer is in thought. Do we know what we think? What is that related with prayer? It's important, because if I'm toxic in my mind, how can I pray? In my old system, negative thinking. So the power of thought the power of prayer is in a thought. So cleanse our thought, cleanse our mind. You can therefore pray everywhere and at any time, alone or with others. You see how free and consoling is Spiritism? We don't need to be in a specific room, a specific place. I don't have time to sit. I need to go, well, if you're cooking for your children, you can pray. If you're going to do your shopping in the supermarket, you can pray. If you're walking to the bank, you can pray. If you're in a plane, you can pray.
Rather than looking and criticizing.
Precisely. Instead of carrying on the obsessive mechanism, we choose to re-educate and discipline our thoughts, and we are praying already, being grateful for everything that we have. Prayer is always pleasing to God when said by the heart. As for Him, the intention is everything. If our intention is sincere, if our intention is honest, that is what counts for God. Praying with...
The family.
Carry on, please.
Studying Spiritism with the dear ones, exchanging ideas with easiness are the immense importance because of the fact that Jesus is taken symbolically to the intimacy of the home.
Is that important when we talk about family level? It's very, very important. When we refer now, we learn with the Spirit Camilo here, when we referred the families on earth, which are a project of God on earth, praying is important. Why is that important? Because it brings us closer, isn't it? It unites us as brothers and sisters, as we are, as mother, as father, as children. It strengthens us towards the natural laws. It helps us to become stronger morally, ethically, more willingly to forgive. And then studying Spiritism with the dear ones, if we do the gospel at home for us, or could be the study of the Bible, or praying, that again, as more as we study more, we understand who we are. What is our duty in relation to my father, to my mother, to my children? What is their responsibility towards father and mother? And then we become stronger in that way. Are of immense importance because the fact that Jesus is taking in the intimacy of the home, fundamental, having prayer to sustain the project of God called family on earth, especially in these days. Now we carry on the new principle that we still reflect today, the practice of Spiritism. Practice of Spiritism. Then you start with us, please.
All Spiritist practice is gratuitous, following the orientation of the moral principle found in the Gospel. Give for free what you receive. Spiritism is practiced with simplicity, without any external forms of worship, within the principle that God should be worshipped in spirit and in truth.
Read the next one for us, please, too.
Spiritism has no clergy, nor does it adopt or use at any of its meetings or during its practices the following: altars, images, candles, processions, sacraments, concessions of indulgences, religious vestments, alcoholic or halogenic beverages, incense, tobacco, talismans, amulets, horoscopes, cartomancies, pyramids, crystals, or any other objects, rituals, or external forms of worship.
What do we learn with the 2 slides now? Regarding the principle of Spiritism and the practice of Spiritism.
Well, it's actually, all of that is actually quite a lot to take in for spirits like us who have come through centuries of needing external tools, elements in order to reach a certain level of spirituality. Because we don't judge the people that use those, but what we're choosing to do is to strengthen ourselves, not to need any of that in
Why
order
not?
to connect.
What is different in this stage for us? Why do we choose, why do the Enlightened Spirits teach us through Spiritism there is no need for the external elements? As we just read, why is that?
Because it's not that the external elements don't have any sort of power, it's just that we're bringing the power to ourselves.
So where is the power?
Usually we put it on the outside, and we depend on the outside, whereas we're trying our best to bring it within. So if, let's say, like we have back home, it's that amulets, of saints that people hold on to, and that's a good luck charm. And we can project all our energy onto that. But how about having all that energy within ourselves, within our hearts, knowing that good luck is created within ourselves? I don't know.
I think the major point is that Spiritism is helping all of us, because we come from previous concepts as well, where pretty much we were taught to focus on an external element. And now within Spiritism, knowing that we are immortal beings, that we bring God's laws within, is inviting us to activate and stimulate the power within. Where does the power start? Is it on the object, on the external element, or in our thinking? It's helping us to bring back where really the cause is, the power. It's not on the external object, it is internal on our thinking level. So that we believe and trust and become dependent on our divine essence and don't need external elements for us to feel safe or secure. Yeah, is that making sense? Yeah. And then here when they say, all Spiritist practice is gratuitous. We are used to pay for everything, isn't it? To charge for everything. Did we do that throughout history? Yes, we do. Now we are again. Spiritism is bringing consolation to our hearts, freeing us from the old ways of being. Why is it gratuitous? Why are we not charging, like here study? We need to pay the rent. Why are we not charging for people to come in and pay for it?
Because it comes from God.
Because it's gratuitous, because what we are teaching here, what we are studying, what we are reflecting, it doesn't belong to me or any one of us here. It belongs to Jesus' teachings that the Enlightened Spirits brought to humanity, which means the word of God. So it doesn't belong to us. Therefore, we are not entitled to charge for it. Does that make sense? Everyone deserves to receive it. Everyone deserves to benefit freely from it. And then we carry on still. Spiritism does not impose its principles. It invites those interested in knowing it to submit its teachings to the test of reason before accepting them. Is that what Spiritism teaches us? Yes. Spiritism is open. Those who want to know, welcome. Let's study. But when we are studying, learn to think for yourself. That is what they say here. Think for yourself. That makes sense. And as more as we study, we know that the natural laws are within us. And sooner or later, that will be stimulated within every human being. In the Gospel, according to Spiritism, we learn, it's still the practice of Spiritism. Spiritism respects all religions and doctrines, values all efforts towards the practice of goodness, works towards peace and fellowship between all nations and all people, regardless of race, color, nationality, creed, culture, or social standing. It also recognizes that a truly good person is the one who complies with the laws of justice, love, and charity in their highest degree of purity. How is that coming to us today? Is that not beauty? Beautiful. Consoling. We don't need to fight with each other because we think differently. We are all brothers and sisters in humanity. We are here with a proposal of peace towards ourselves, towards those in the spirit. That is the natural law of life, of love.
And if you go to the previous slide, and we remember that every time we try to convince others of our principles, it's because we're not convinced ourselves.
Yes.
You know,
It's true.
living the principles is different because people will just ask you, what is different about you? And sometimes it isn't about even trying to explain the principles of Spiritism. It's trying to explain the principles of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just
it
to
can be
be
translated in any way. It doesn't have to be
words.
words.
No. No. Actions. Actions. Preferable, silent actions. That is translated into our new way of being. People don't know it, but it comes through us. Not that our intention is to show, but it comes through us. Whatever goodness we expand with us, it doesn't stay internal, it comes through us. We cannot hide it. Is that making sense? But when we are cultivating simplicity and humbleness, we don't have the need to show off. We just are. Examples. How can that come through our behavior? We never heard of this model. How is that? How can that manifest through our way of being? For example, are there different ways of preparing a cup of tea? Yes. Look, you know it, and I am quiet. Say why, Susanna? What are the different ways?
Okay.
Let's imagine someone asks you, please could you make and even not say please, cup of tea. And then?
How would you like the milk with me?
It's okay to talk about these superior feelings. Again, if we are developing love within, simplicity of heart, and we are really respecting everyone, and if I'm in a situation to prepare a tea, I may see that the one comes to me and is very hungry, doesn't say anything, cup of tea. But I'm connected. At that moment, let's say at least, with my best of myself. How would you like to have it? Would you like to have it with sugar, without sugar, with milk, without milk? Will that impress or imprint in the taste of the tea? Yes. When people come back and say, I love your tea. I don't know why, but you do differently. They cannot explain. I'm just giving an example of a tea. So it's with everything. They cannot explain. But it's the love that we put into that comes from us. Is that clear? Any other example?
I mean, every time that we reflect, I think I remember this lecture about the school cars, the mothers of the school cars.
They want parking.
Parking, and am I being considerate about how I'm parking? Am I being considerate about other families around? And these things, they're little things, they're tiny little impacts that can improve our society.
Yes. Respecting each other, knowing our boundaries. But remember, knowing our boundaries in relation to our shadows. When we talk about real love, there is no boundaries. It's just goodness flowing through us. And we all are instruments of goodness on earth. We all have some good to give and to share. And much more than sometimes we believe we have. So in that way, unfortunately, we are coming to the end today. And as always, we close our study today with our final prayer, which I ask Danusa please to do with us.
Dear Lord, Master Jesus, back to spirits, friends, we are truly grateful for these moments that are like points of light in our existence, where we unite as friends, incarnates and disincarnates, all of those connected through us, through social media, through our thoughts. May we all stay connected to the principles that Spiritism brings us, so that we may live a happier life, with more peace in our hearts, with more peace in our minds, emanating that peace everywhere we go. So be it.
Maybe all have a good week and hopefully be together next week once more.